to discuss. Alethia Young, Senior Biotech Analyst at Cantor Fitzgerald. Alethia, great to see you as always. First kind of big picture question is seeing another variant like this spike up and get so much attention a reminder of how long we'll be living with COVID and how much demand there's likely to be for all forms of treatment, vaccines or post-infection treatments?
Exactly. I think that's the point. We've said before that we think that the COVID virus probably will be a little bit more like the flu. It could have some seasonality and could exist for many years to come, which creates a kind of a business opportunity for a lot of these companies to keep innovating with science and infectious diseases.
When you see some suggest that part of the reason for seeing this variant appear in the first place is because the West, the developed world, has been hoarding vaccines to the detriment of places like Africa, is that a fair criticism, do you think, or not?
I mean, there's probably some legitimacy to it. I think that, there's a broad distribution of vaccines around the world. But, also in areas where there are vaccines available in the world, you're still seeing the incidence of these cases reemerging. I think it's more that the virus mutates often. And because not everyone's vaccinated and we're not necessarily at herd immunity, I think this is kind of inevitable that it will continue to mutate and change. The good thing is that a lot of medicines now are able to move much faster and create vaccines and treatments and kind of move and shake with this virus now, finally.
Moderna up another 11.6%. It got a huge spike on Friday. Alethia, do you think that it's justified on this idea that they might potentially have to come up with a new shot to tailor to these new variants, and that's just going to be with us and we're going to have to keep getting them?
Yeah, I mean, if you look across the board, I think both the treatments and the vaccine players have kind of moved up, over the past couple of days. And I do think it's fair because I don't think the market appreciated fully that this is kind of unfortunately, an evergreen business. Like, I think people want to think that COVID's going away tomorrow. But the reality is it's much more like I said, the flu, where I think we'll be dealing with this and we'll have to keep innovating. So I think the market's finally slowly starting to appreciate that this could be around, medicines and stockpiling could be needed for years upon years in a significant way because it seems like we'll have to boost for this virus at least probably every 6 months or so.
Friday obviously saw quite a big sell-off across the board, Alethia. Were there any of your non-COVID-related picks that sold off on Friday that presented a particularly good buying opportunity?
I always like platform companies, so companies that have technologies that are novel and new but de-risked. So one for me is Alnylam. They have therapies on the market for RNA interference. It kind of is like you can turn the spigot off of bad genes and problematic proteins. And I think it's pulled back with the market, but what opportunity lies ahead for Alnylam with their platform technology and their base business growing significantly. I think this is kind of the next large cap biotech company out there, even though it is currently over $20 billion.
Do you cover Adagio Therapeutics? That's the story of the day. That stock
I don't,
absolutely surging, almost doubling. But they say that they have antibodies, monoclonal antibody treatment that so far what they can tell from Omicron is it doesn't escape it. You do cover some of the other antibody treatment companies, though, like Regeneron and Lilly. What do you think are their prospects as we deal with new variants?
I cover Regeneron, so I'll comment on them. Okay. I think Regeneron, for me, it's up today, and I'm not surprised because I do think that this is a good support of why a prophylactic market is needed. So basically, Regeneron had treatment in a preventative setting with their antibody that people who are immunocompromised should be getting treated, right? You should be kind of prophylactically treating yourself. And I think today and what's going on with Omicron is case in point as to why, people who are immunocompromised do need to probably seek some sort of kind of preventative treatment if we're going to be fighting with this. So, and I mean, that market is significant. It's millions of people, unfortunately.
Why isn't that happening already? Shouldn't we be there?
We should. Number one, it wasn't approved, for a little bit of time, and they had to run those clinical studies. I think we all forget, there wasn't a vaccine seen, basically this time last year. It was kind of still a twinkle in everybody's eye, and we were waiting for data. So, a lot of these studies, have come out over 2021. And I do think as the reality settles in, that, this is something that is going to be a continuous thing that we kind of struggle with, at least for the next year or two or three. I think people will start to realize that they may need to make sure they're safe and protected, especially if you have things like cancer or MS or things where your immune system is compromised.
Is there enough production of these monoclonal antibodies, or do you feel like the focus from the administration has been so squarely on the vaccines that the treatments have really taken a back seat? And it feels like at the time when we need them, they're now being rationed again.
Well, the good thing is you know, some of the orals are coming out there and have filed for approval. So that's obviously easier to make than some of the antibodies and remdesivir or Veklury. But I do also think the companies themselves, Gilead and Regeneron, I know for sure, have put a lot of effort and a lot of capital expenditures of their own kind of investment into making sure that they can produce as fast and as effective as possible. Regeneron's partnered with Roche. Gilead's made a significant investment over the past 12 months on Veklury to make sure that they try to make it as available as possible. So I think they've exceeded expectations that I've seen on like normal drug development, where you're trying to make kind of novel medicines available that are not pills. So I mean, I think they've spent a lot of their own dime and dollar to try to do this. And so I think that'll continue, and hopefully the government continues to invest in these companies as well.